guys, welcome back to Tactics Talk, and we've got another tank review, this time for the Tier 6 Italian medium tank from the new Italian tank line. Recently finished the grind up to the Tier 7. I've got some battles to show you with the Tier 6 as well as a review of the tank itself. Standard, we'll do an overview, look at the tech tree considerations, do a comparison amongst its peers, look at my setup, my stats, how I did through the grind, and we'll take a look at 3 games or so at the end on how to play the P.43 BIS, or the P.43 BIS. So it seems like it's an upgrade from the Tier 5. You'll notice that the Tier 5, the Tier 6, and the Tier 7 all share the P.43, but you've got the BIS and the TER on the end of those two. This one looks quite a bit different than the next two, who share what looks like a pretty similar hull style right there. So you're shifting from this Tier 5 with the strange kind of armor layout up here to a more modern looking tank with kind of a basic sloped angled front. And I will say right off the bat that although it is 80 millimeters on both the Tier 5 and the Tier 6 frontal armor, this armor seems to be a little more useful as far as playing World of Tanks for side scraping, angling, things like that. And it was a little harder, I think, to use this one. So strangely, even though I went up a tier to Tier 6, I felt like the armor was actually more useful, even though they were both 80 millimeters, and that would have a lot to do probably with the different sloping and things like that. So what is this? This is another one of those tanks that was not created. It was one of the blueprint kind of tanks or concept tanks at Tier 6 that Wargaming has put into their game. You will notice that it's fairly low silhouette. Let's go ahead and grab the rest of the Tier 6 mediums and take a look at what we have with those. Fairly low silhouette, so things like a Sherman Firefly, even a T-34-85 seems to be just a little bit taller. So that's actually really interesting for things like getting hold down on little depressions where you're just poking up a little bit of your tank. This tank will hide behind lower depressions than you might expect, and I have found myself having a hard time hitting them in some kind of strange places just based on the fact that it is such a low tank. Even this guy's pretty much about the same. I guess it's A43 is a very similar idea right there. Schmaltram, great big tall turret. This guy, great big tall turret. The massive 3001P. So that's one of the advantages that this little tank has right here. Pretty clean looking tank, kind of cool looking. It's got that big 90 millimeter sitting on there. And that's your basic overview. We'll move on to tech tree considerations. Tech tree is pretty standard. If you looked at my P43 review that's out as well for the Tier 5, remember that between the Tier 4 and the Tier 5, the crew positions switch around. But once you get to the Tier 5 and up to the Tier 6, it's all the same crew positions. If we look at the details here, it's going to be a commander, gunner, driver, loader. That happens to be the same setup for the rest all the way up to Tier 10, and it's also the same setup for the Progetto if you've got the premium for training crews, so that's actually going to be useful. Once you get up to this level at Tier 5, actually, and then at Tier 6 and beyond, you're able to move those crews over into, if you have the premium Progetto, and do some more training with them. So, because nobody's got really any Italian crews other than maybe what they've trained in the Progetto, that's going to be very useful for getting crews that are good in these higher tier Italian tanks here. If we take a look at the modules and things for the BIS, you've got one turret you're going to go to and then get the larger gun, tracks, a couple engines to go through, that kind of good stuff. No big deal on the gun. This one is a 118 and 110. That's the gun from the one below. It's pretty anemic at Tier 6, and it really starts to shine with this 90 millimeter here that does 240 alpha and has a decent pen at 140 with 180 on the gold round. So this is really where you want to go. I had this tank completely unlocked because I had enough free experience when I moved up to this tank from the Tier 5. So all my games in this tank and the stats and everything else is going to reflect a fully upgraded tank. When I get to the Tier 7 review, you're going to see me grinding through a few things. In fact, I just bought the Tier 7 and I don't have the top gun, so that'll be interesting. You can see up here I don't have enough free experience at this point to unlock any large modules. But these are relatively cheap and you should be able to burn through them pretty quickly even if you came to this stock. That will be slightly painful because you are using that gun from the lower tier with 110 average damage. I would look to get to that big gun as soon as possible because that's where this tank really starts to shine, like I said. All right, let's work over to the comparison. All right, so digging into the comparison, You'll see that its firepower number is relatively high. Now this tank is about the gun for the most part at tier 6. It is a medium that's carrying a 240 alpha gun on it, and the 90mm, you can see it's well and above nearly anything else or everything else that's on this list. Just as a side note, all these tanks are 100% modules, 100% crew, but no skills, perks, equipment, paint, or food loaded on. So you're just getting a 100% elated tank with 100% crew on these numbers. The pen is decent, not top in class like the Firefly there, but it's right there in the middle, and with gold can pretty much handle anything that it sees at tier, 1 tier above, and will sometimes struggle 2 tiers above. Rate of fire is low, so you're trading off that 240 alpha with a slower rate of fire. But if we dive down here real quick to the average DPM, you're going to see it's right up there near the top at 2000. So it is a fast enough reload with a high enough average or alpha shot, average alpha damage there, that it really is competitive as far as the DPM goes. So this is a really good gun. Other than the soft stats, because it's kind of wonky. We'll get to that in just a minute. The depression is -7 plus 20. The tank before it was -10. So be careful of some negative transfer right there. That can get you into trouble. I found myself in a couple of cases thinking I had a little more depression than I did because it really felt like driving the tank before. They really do fight similar, which is something Wargaming has been trying to do. But you've lost 3 degrees, so it's not quite as comfortable as a Ridge Runner or hold down tank right there. Turret traverse is fine. There's that long reload time I've talked about there. That's your trade-off for having a higher alpha gun. We get down here to the aiming time. That's where we get to these kind of soft stats and the handling on the gun. And 2.3 is pretty abysmal. It does take quite a long time to zoom in. We'll talk about the equipment you can use. It's another tank you might want to think about food on there as well. And the dispersion is right up there, almost tied for worst. The A43 is even worse. Over here, this A43 is using the 76, I think. I had it set, not the 57mm on it. Survivability, the hit points are okay right there. And here's that armor I'm talking about. That 80 hull, 80 on the turret. It does get beat on the turret by a couple tanks. A couple Soviet and a Soviet clone have 90mm on the face of the turret. But like I said in the overview, the armor seems to be a little bit more usable on this tank, despite it being the same number and a higher tier. So I really found this tank to be quite bouncy for a medium, and it surprised me in a couple of cases, especially taking on its compatriots here, maybe with the lower pens, getting a little angle, that kind of thing. Now gold is always going to butter through you for the most part, but that is something every tank has to deal with that has armor for the most part. Not all of them, but most of them. Its speed is higher. The tank before it felt sluggish. This one did not feel sprightly, so it's not a Cromwell, but it was much better than the one before, so it was able to get in and get out and move around the battlefield a lot better than the Tier 5, which the Tier 5 was just abysmal in the speed regime, and it just was very difficult to move around. This one is much more comfortable, although it's not nearly as fast as I think we would all like. Get down to concealment. Because of that low stature, I'm thinking that's why it's got the best basic camo in the game for the Tier 5s, at least among these ones that I put out here. You'll notice that I didn't put out any of the premium Tier 6 tanks out there, but pretty good concealment based on its low silhouette. Really not something you do a whole bunch at Tier 6, but if you're going to hang back and snipe in a bush, then it's nice to know it's actually pretty good at. View range is okay. So what do we have here basically on the comparison? We have a tank that's relatively mobile, some surprisingly good armor that can surprise people, and a really punchy gun for a Tier 6 medium tank. It can really hold its own. And the nice thing about it is when you notice that the DPM is up there with the rest of them, it can spit enough rounds downrange fast enough that it can keep up with some of these smaller dudes in here. Now, a couple of these are going to get 2 shots in before your P.43 gets another shot in. But because it's dropping 240, as long as you're not a near dead when they jump on you, you're going to have a pretty decent ability to hold them off with your DPM being 2000. Obviously, anybody that's a low hit point pool is going to have a problem with that once they get down to low. And that is the comparison for the P.43. Decently mobile, interesting armor, and a pretty good gun. Let's take a look at my setup here. You'll see that my crew is out of it. We'll talk about the crew in a minute because I've moved them up to the P.43 TER. But I've got a gun rammer, I've got vents, and again, this one uses the enhanced gun laying drive like the Tier 5 does. The Tier 7, the next one after this, has a vert stab. I was carrying 36 AP, 10 APCR, and 2 HE in try-hard mode with lots of gold. I've got a small kit, and a automatic fire extinguisher right there. For the crew, I've moved it on. You'll see that they were 100%. I used gold to train them to 100% right off the bat. I never got to 100% on any of their skills yet, so I'm still working on that. Probably while I'm grinding through the TER, that crew will hit its first 100%. But that crew has gone from the P.43 to the BIS into the TER. And like I mentioned before, the Progetto has the same setup there. So if you have one, you could be bouncing them back and forth. If you wanted to, I was just basically power grinding these guys through here. And that is essentially my setup. Let's look at how I did grinding up to the Tier 7. Take a look at the stats. I did pretty well in this tank. 37 battles to get from a fully upgraded tank to unlocking the next tank with 58,000 experience, I think. 59% win rate. Survived 51% of the battles. 68% hits. That kind of talks to that wonky gun. It's not got a great dispersion. It takes a long time to aim. Most of my tanks sit around 75%, 75 to 80, so you can see that I suffered a little bit because of the gun handling. Damage ratio and destruction ratio are well up there. Had a pretty good time with that. Armor use efficiency, interesting, at 0.4. Anything around 1, like I've said before, is a pretty good armored tank. All the very light ones are going to be 0.1 or 0.2, something like that. And this guy's right in the middle. So I wouldn't rely on the armor, but you are going to get some interesting bounces, and I'll show you some of that when we get to the gameplay. 860 experience is a little bit low. I'd rather average about 900, but somewhere around Tier 6, it's really hard to get to the close to that 1,000 experience per game unless you're just really spectacularly good. I'd like to see that more like 900 though. But my damage is comparable, as well as my damage ratio and destruction ratio, to tanks I did well in at this tier. Damage received 554. For example, a Type 58, which I hold a 72% win rate in at 228 battles, is going to have slightly lower stats as far as ratio, destruction, and damage caused in there. Again, this is a slightly low data set at 37 battles. That would probably average out a little bit, but this is not too far off where I think I would be with this tank, maybe 57 to 60% if I got to 100 battles on it. The spotted is pretty high. That's going to speak to being out in front quite a bit. Again, a bit of a YOLO mindset trying to get through all of this, and 1.68 enemy vehicles destroyed per game. Interestingly, I did get a Radley Walters on this with a 2,195 damage game. That will be in the examples of games that's coming up. I've got 3 games to show you there. But that is how I did in the P.43 BIS. First game I'll show you here is a bottom tier game where I had a pretty good game in the P.43 BIS. We have loaded into Ensk in the northern spawn, and I'm coming over here into the field site in amongst the buildings. A 12T that shows up right here. You can see how long it takes to zoom in and make sure you've got a good shot with this thing. Medium to long range gunnery is going to be a real pain with this thing. Just look how long that takes. I actually fire a little bit before I'm loaded in. You can see I'm being liberal with my... And I get hammered by HE from a 3045 running HE. I'm being liberal with my gold use. There's a shot. Crit damage. No damage on that guy. So I need to watch out for that T3045 and that ridiculous derp gun. I've noticed quite a few people using that lately. So he's kind of got the memo that this thing is a decent side scraper. So that's what he's doing there with that 50. He overangles a little bit, and I think I might be able to get a shot, so I'm not able to quite do it. 2801 gets tracked, so I'll just take the opportunity here to back up. And we've got quite a few of their smaller things trapped right here, so we haven't run into anything really that's a huge problem for us. I'm looking for an opportunity to come around here. That guy's not looking. And to be honest, I don't know what happened to that shot, whether it just disappeared on me. There's a bounce. With a good zoom in, I'm able to shoot down to his lower plate right there. Try a snap to do it, but I don't quite get that done. And now they're getting pressed on my left side, so I'm coming in on the right, see what I can do. And I get a shot into the back of the 3485. Try to put the front armor to this guy, but he's got some pretty good... Somehow bounced. I don't know what the heck happened right there. But he's got pretty good pen, so that tank is going to be not going to have any problem really penning the armor on this thing. And I may have been a little over angled there as well. Got a little scout trying to get through. Thread the needle on that one. Down he goes. There's an artillery out there. And for some reason I'm not smart enough to fix my gunner. There we go. And now we've got kind of a situation developing here. They've come through the town and we're still kind of pushing onto the cap. I kind of wish I'd turned around and gone the other way, but I don't have a lot of good options. I've got a couple tier 8s I'm still trying to deal with. Dive into here. What I wish I had done was two things different. Either go back, but then I'd been facing that guy, shoot right over his back deck, or push in real quick and get a couple more shots on these guys closer in, because we're just sort of goofing around right here. I actually bump into the 100Y, which was not my intention. Comet's going to go through, finally get something going there, get a shot on him, and try to dive on cap. Not really my favorite thing to do, but I thought maybe we could get 3 on and just cap this thing out before, if guys would hang out and hide a little bit. Missed a shot there because I was messing around with my camera. That guy actually poked his back end around and we'd have had a shot, but here comes the proto. So now we got trouble. Put a shot on him, I get hit by the Comet. The Pantera's sitting over here. He's not looking, but I can't quite get to him. There's another track, no damage, ridiculous. Right into the side of him, I get a track, no damage. Wish I'd have backed up right there because I would have had a shot right on the side of the proto. Oh boy. And here he comes. Survive that, but I'm not going to survive the rest of it. Boom. And down I go. So 2,125. We end up losing that battle. End game, not some real good decisions on my part there. I should have got in there a little sooner and tried to clean these guys up. What I really would have liked to have seen is once we won that flank, we all student body, turn around. But by then we were out of tier 8s. What did we have over here? We had me, a 37, some other little light dudes sitting around over here. So it looks like our heavies kind of died over there in the town. Yep, Defender's dead over there. Multiple other dead guys in the town there. But you see that it's decent, capable tank at bottom tier. The gun can do some work. I had some unlucky bounces here and there, but c'est la vie, that's what happens to everybody in this game. So it can contribute bottom tier if you play it carefully, and that gun can surprise people dropping 240 alpha on them. All right, let's move on to the next example. On the first example, I was showing you a bottom tier game, and I kind of went to a place where I had a reasonable expectation to not run into the tier 8s, or maybe only one of them. So I didn't go into town and brawl. Still trying to learn the tank. On this one, then, I'm top tier in a 357, which is a really great setup for me. So let's see how this tank handles as more of a heavium, which is what I sort of talked about on the last tank as well. Yes, it's a medium, but it has some heavy qualities that can be leveraged in the right situation, and this looks to me like the right situation. I need to avoid getting swarmed. I need to avoid getting hammered too much by TDs. But you'll see that with a little bit of aggression, and I've got a lot of guys behind me, so I say, all right, let's see what this armor can do. Let's see what top tier, kind of playing it like I might an E50 right here in a situation where I'm top tier, and I think I'm the big dog coming along here. Get a shot right there coming in. Pop up, he's got 5 hit points, so we should be able to take him down. Remember, he's one of the cousins, so he's going to have that 80 millimeter. Boink. I bounced one off of him, or from him. And we'll take him down. Think about going up top, but that's just going to expose myself too much, so I'm going to come around here, and I'll just get that front armor to him. We got a Lago and one of the lower tier cousins right there, so I hammer him. You'll notice it does take a while to reload. So you can't just go driving out there like you might in some mediums and kind of pow, pow, pow. You do have to do a little bit more careful forward and backward kind of thing. Wait till you're reloaded. Ideally, you get moving a little sooner than I did right there. And we take him down. Working that -7 depression, right? It was just enough in that situation, just enough. So we've pushed through hard. I see the T-67. I'm thinking to go back there, but you know what? It's just Artie, right? You're on your own. Got an Excelsior here, which has a pretty good armor profile for this tier. Gonna move up here. I've got 1 AP loaded, and I'm gonna go to my gold. There you go. I bounce that guy. He damages a track. I'm just waiting for the artillery to hit me right here, and now we're gonna come around this corner, put a shot into him, and I'm thinking, all right, this is easy. We're gonna kill this guy off, no problem. We just come in here and no, nothing. I got nothing. So let's see what we got. We got some more guys poking and prodding, and then we've got a TD. I really don't want that TD hitting me. Good pen on that guy. See, I've got to wait for the reload. Take him down. And it's pretty much just a wrecking ball at this tier. Using it more as a heavium. You can see that I've already bounced 520. All these small guns that I fought, nobody really dabbed number 2 on me, so I was able to keep that front armor profile, a little bit of angling. And that nice thick turret, I'm able to really just do a number on these guys. I'll just drive in and hit him as I go. So we got 5 kills. There's a Hummel out in the middle. I'm really hoping I can get up there and get a piece of him. But he's getting absolutely hammered, and down he goes. And we're looking for this last guy, which is a, what is this thing? A Dicker Max. A Dicker Max. Last seen in this little area here, but that was a while ago. So I'm taking a chance that I might be able to dig him out in here and find him. Got a lot of my friends coming from the west side. They don't see him. I'm not proxy lighting him here, so I'm thinking he's probably back behind us. Somebody's going to spot him here pretty quickly. There he is. T-34 finds him. Come up on top here. I got just a sliver. Oh, I got to go a little forward. And I'm actually able to kill him off for the 6-kill Top Gun. And really just a wrecking ball pushing through these guys. 1,710 damage. 6 kills. Top tier. Really having my way. I didn't even take 1 hit point of damage, and I got hit quite a bit coming through here, bouncing 520 as I went, which is almost like having another tank right next to you. When your hit points get near the hit points of your tank that you bounce, that's like having another tank, another life, if you will. So it is quite good, top tier. Let's move on to the last example. For the third example, I have a pretty good game right here. It ends up being 9 kills, loaded into Cliff, top tier 357. All the things apply that I talked about earlier. There is an RD I have to worry about over there, but we spawned into the south side on Cliff, so I'm going to go up for this donut or ramp, whatever you want to call it, over here at about E2 or 3. I'll be looking for getting shots into the side. I've picked up a dynamic platoon along the way. I don't think there's anything really fast enough to challenge me too much right there. But even if there was, I felt fairly confident whatever would show up, I'd be able to keep the front armor to him and knock him down. But as it was, no problem. We get over there, that Panzer Fizzle-Lizzle thing over there. Really light but hard-hitting TD. So I'm going to come up to the top here. I do have to be cognizant of Artie. I'll come up to the top and see what we got. Here comes a guy. There's that gun accuracy, that mid to long range shooting is just going to be painful. Right over the back deck. Another miss. Not going great to begin with. Put the front armor to this guy and take him down. You'll see that he ends up missing me. One of his cousins attempts to push in for some unknown reason. He goes down. And they have quite a stack up on the back side there. So I'm just going to take a chance that there's not too many TDs hiding on the back corners. And we'll come up here and see if we can hit this T-34. There's a T-34 just driving along. I'm zoomed in and I miss. So I'll wait again and I'll zoom in. And I get a hit. Down he goes. Front armor, front armor. What do we got? Oh, we got a Oh, right over top. Missed the Excelsior. Down goes that guy. A bounce. Oh, I'm getting a hit. The guy over there shooting at me. Taking another hit from the A20. The A20 takes quite a few hits. I'm going to back up here. Just cover myself up with the terrain to my right so that A20 quits hitting me and just take down the guy who's sitting out in the open. Let's move a little closer. My front armor is working out pretty good. The A20 is spamming gold at me and still not getting a pin. Remember, the APCR loses some pin at range. Goes the Excelsior. Run, buddy, run. Oh, geez. Not even a track. And he's going to get around that corner and hide. What? The magic Excelsior. Get a shot on him. I'm using this dead Hulk. Another bounce. Take him down. And things are looking pretty good, actually. So he starts to run. Another miss into the rock. The A20 is still shooting at me. And ouch. Finally, the M44 decides to start shooting at me, and I get hammered for 248. As I've said before, no amount of armor is really going to help that. Now, things are looking pretty good, right? They don't have a lot of guys left. So I'm coming over here, see what I can do with the 01. There goes one of our guys. There goes another guy. There goes a third guy. And all of a sudden, what looked like a runaway wind developing is down to not a runaway wind. There goes another guy. This guy sees me. He knows he reloads fast, but not fast enough. Oh, geez. Got that guy. Thank goodness. He actually bounces a 300 alpha shot off me, which works for me. That tank carries standard heat, and unfortunately the second one actually goes through me, so that hurts. It's a relatively low pin heat as well, but he was able to get through. Heat likes flat surfaces. There's that dumb A20. It would have been really nice if I could hit him right there, but it hits the... It actually was right on him, but that rock is in the way. This will kill him, right? No. Nope, that's going to go right over his top. Holy cow. Good news is I was not in range for him to see. Now I'm dealing with the 01, and I thought this was it. I really thought right here that it was all over, but thank goodness. Am I going to say this? I guess I'm going to say it. Thank goodness for Artie, who tracked that guy and stopped him from getting over and on top, so to speak. I've got to hunt down now a Stug, an Artie, and an A20. So I thought about going up the hill and trying to get the A20, but that M44 is simply going to wreck me as soon as I'm spotted, so I need to take him out of the equation. The Stug and the A20 are way across the map. I know where the M44 is because I got hit by him, and I saw which direction it came in from. I wanted to make sure it was an M44. So he's over in this corner. Unless he's run off, I'm going to come around behind here, and what I want to do is get rid of this M44 so I don't have to worry about Artie hitting me while I'm hiding behind rocks and other things. And then I've got to somehow dig out the Stug and the A20. So I'd love to keep my Artie alive, but for the moment, the priority is to get rid of theirs, if I can. Oh, stop. Nice trees, thank you. Double bushed. There's a hit. He knows he's spotted now. Either his sixth sense went off or being hit. It's pretty obvious. And I'm able to take him down. So we'll turn around. I don't have sixth sense, so what I don't know is, did they see me? Now, they know I'm in that area because they saw their dude get killed. Whether I got lit or not, I don't know. And that worried me a little bit because as I came around this corner, I figured I might be in danger of somebody sitting up on that hill just waiting for me to show up and blap me. Using the bushes. I didn't fire on purpose. I hoped that he hadn't seen me, and I don't think he did because he just drives right up to the edge. Now I need to come up this way, and I really want to get up behind this Stug. We've got 8 kills. That's where I'm really wishing I was faster. I'm also worried about where the A20 is. Where is this guy? He's got to be right here. There he is. I'm going to let this zoom in nicely so I don't miss, and we double tap that guy. I'll dive down here so the A20 doesn't have some shot from on top of the hill. If he is going to get me, he's going to have to come up and over. I sort of expected him to show up behind me, but he didn't. I'm going to come up here, take a look. And there he is. He fires. I'm just going to rely on the armor and take him down. I figured I could take one hit if I got lucky and he low rolled. But we're able to take him down. Plus I had the 2 artillery that would probably be going to be firing in there pretty soon. We end up taking him down. 2,195, 9 kills. Top tier, heavium kind of gameplay. Quite effective actually. And you notice that the armor bounced another 905. So anything same tier and below, unless they're dabbing 2, and even in the case of the poor A20 who did dab 2, they're going to have trouble penning the armor on this thing. So kind of a surprise. I wouldn't trust it necessarily. I wouldn't say, oh, I'm just going to bull forward because I can't be hurt. But as you play it aggressively, you're going to find that at tier and lower tier, it's quite effective. And you finally have a decent amount of speed to use that. All right, guys, that is it for the third example. All right, that is it for the review of the P.43 BIS, a Tier 6 Italian medium tank from the new Italian line. Overall, what did I think of it? I like this a lot better than the Tier 5. Probably had a lot to do with I did better in it. The gun is wonky, but it has the alpha to make up for it, whereas the tier below had the same wonky gun stats and soft stats and handling, but was only carrying around 110 alpha. This guy's carrying around a 240 alpha gun, so it makes up for some of the wonkiness. I had multiple games where if I'd have got a couple more hits in on shots I'd taken, my DPM would have been a lot higher. It's just the things you saw, especially on that last game where stuff just kind of goes wherever it wants to go. That's just something you're going to have to deal with at lower tiers like that. But like I said, because it's the 90mm and it hits so hard, it really does make up for it at tier 6. So this is, in my opinion, one of the top tier 6 mediums, to be quite honest, with that gun. What's interesting is when you get to tier 7, it's basically the same gun, upgraded with a little bit better stats. So that's going to be interesting. We'll get to that review later on when I finish that grind. But the jump from the tier 5 to the tier 6, going from 110 alpha to 240 alpha, it was a really big deal. The armor is more usable as far as the layout goes on this tank, and just overall faster tank. So pretty good tank. I'd say it's among the top 5 probably tier 6 mediums out there as far as I'm concerned. So do not worry too much. The only thing that you're going to find, and that's for all the tier 6s, is you're in a 357 world and you're going to see a lot of tier 8s. So you've just got to resign yourself to that. Make sure you got a lot of 2 that you can press, and try to not go face to face with them as much as possible, which is very difficult in this corridor meta. But there you have it. Pretty good tier 6 medium tank, and actually looks kind of cool too. All right, that's all I had, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you liked what you saw. If you did, make sure you subscribe and tell your friends. We will see ya.